Hello and welcome to Property Fundamentals. This is the channel to get property investment information for cities across the UK. First of all, we'll analyse the data. Then, we'll identify the best areas to invest in. In this video, we'll look at Sheffield in 2023. Here we have the mean sold property price by ward for detached properties in Sheffield. The detached properties in the east are generally the cheapest to invest in. These are the sold prices for the semi-detached properties. The wards towards the southwest of the city are particularly expensive in comparison to the rest. With terraced housing, the ward of Burngreave is particularly cheap. For flats, the wards to the east are much cheaper than the other areas, making them an interesting investment opportunity. And finally, we have the combined sold prices for all property types. Generally, the southwestern parts of the city are the most expensive to invest in, with the wards of Fulwood, Dore and Totley and Ecclesall being particularly expensive. This is a map of the main transport routes in Sheffield. There is a good train network which connects several parts of the city and a tram network near the city centre. The M1 and M18 motorways pass close by the city. These are the Ofsted ratings for schools in Sheffield. Generally, most wards have more good schools than bad ones. The dark blue areas show places which have a flooding risk within Sheffield. The northwestern and central areas are generally the only places affected by flooding. With burglary over a 3-month period, the ward of City is by far the worst affected. The severity of this level in relation to the other wards suggests that there are specific issues with burglary in the city centre. For universal credit, the eastern and central wards have the highest number of claimants. Finally, for housing benefit, the wards of Manor Castle and Firth Park have the highest number of claimants, making them an ideal location for landlords who specialise in these tenants. Now that we've looked at the data, we can analyse it to find the best areas within Sheffield to invest. Before this, if you haven't already, I'd recommend you watch my other video which explains how to interpret this analysis. The map below shows the desirability of the various wards within Sheffield. Data from the housing benefit claimants, universal credit claimants, burglary data, flooding and schools have been collated to give an overall picture of which areas are desirable and which are not. The main point of interest for location desirability within Sheffield is that there is a clear east-west divide, with the western part being far more desirable than the eastern part. The tables below show the quantified results of the average property prices for all property types and the desirability ranking. Generally, the wards which are the cheapest are the least desirable and vice versa. We are looking for exceptions where a desirable area is cheap, as this is an area which may provide a high return on investment over the long term. These cheap but desirable areas will become more obvious when we visualize the data. Here we have a visualization of the average property prices against location desirability for the wards in Sheffield. The data shows that most wards are as expected because the least desirable wards are cheap and the most desirable wards are expensive. At the top end of the market, the ward of Ecclesall is a good option. It is the most desirable ward, but it is not the most expensive, and therefore it should experience a good level of capital growth in the future. In the mid-range part of the market, the wards of West Ecclesfield and also Stocksbridge and Upper Don are good options. They have a better than average location desirability, but their price is less than half the average price of the most expensive wards. Finally, there are a couple wards to avoid. Bowchief and Greenhill has a low location desirability, but the mean property price is in the middle of the market for Sheffield. This means it is unlikely to benefit from much future capital growth, as it is potentially already overvalued. Nether Edge and Sharrow is another ward to avoid because the average property price is higher than average, but its location desirability is lower than average. This suggests that this area may be overpriced. Thank you for watching this episode of Property Fundamentals. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you again next time.